So this is my long-awaited, or long overdue perhaps, review of the Busse Anniversary Straight-Handled Battle Mistress. Overall impressions are reasonably positive. It is quite durable, as you might imagine, given that the blade stock is 1/3 of an inch thick. And it is a good chopper, given its weight. You can see its sweet spot, depending on how and where you grip it, is somewhere between these two lines. And that's sort of the good stuff. And I like the infeed. It's been nicely corrosion resistant, and it's performed well. Edge retention in chopping has been good, although it's worth noting that edge retention in chopping is slightly different from what people are used to pocket knife wise. The handle also, it has no hot spots. It's, in that regard, it's very comfortable. That said, that was only after addressing little issues around the rivets, which we'll get to. The profile is flat grind, and again, specs will be in the description down below. You can see here, what is it? I'm having trouble reading my handwriting as it's been worn off, but I think this is 2, 4, and 6 millimeter thickness lines drawn along the length of the blade. And the spine is nicely radiused. So, what can I say? So, my criticisms, I guess you could say. One criticism is that given the length and straightness of this edge, you have a bit of a problem if you put a ding in it, which I've done, because that means if it were a curved edge, you could just change the radius ever so slightly, blend it in, nobody would really notice. But because it's straight, any ding, you have to either recurve it or bodge it or somehow make it look horrible, or you have to bring this entire straight edge up to meet fresh steel where you haven't damaged it anymore. And that's a little bit time consuming, a little bit frustrating. So there's that as a drawback. Another drawback was that this knife, when it came with these countersinks cut deeper than the depth of the countersink bit, which is to say that there was a little vertical at the edge, so it wasn't flared over, and that left a little sharp edge around each of these, which had to be blended out, which was not a big deal, not that difficult, something to note. Once that had been done, though, this handle, you realize pretty quickly, is completely slick. It's, I mean, we're talking greater slickness than a Gen 3 Glock, I mean, which for people in the firearms world is sort of a standard for people complaining because the grip is too slick. And the result of that, combined with the fact that the handle is basically in line with the force, centripetal force from swinging, means that you really have to either grip extremely hard and depend solely on this contour, or your hand slides back onto this. Now, I will say, Busse did make this nice and wide to help combat what they call it, pinky bite or something like that. So it is fairly comfortable, but it is also rather fatiguing to have to grip that forcefully. This is particularly the case if you have gloves on, which can make it even more slick. So that's a big disadvantage. Also, the weight doesn't help because now you have that much more weight trying to drag the blade out of your hand. A final, or an additional criticism I should add, is that the handle for my hands is slightly too large, and so rather than having the blade aligned with your arm the way it should be, it makes you want to rotate it ever so slightly out of line, which is not optimal. And that I account for in part just because it's slightly too, the whole handle is slightly too round. It's not flat enough on the sides. So just to compare this, and I should also add cost-wise, this knife is not cheap. As a sort of competitive, what have you, option, is this, the Sicko 911. And as you can see by the relative wear amounts, I actually use this knife more because I like it better, and this is for a number of reasons. The res perine damps impacts, although it is less durable. The handle itself is actually somewhat triangular, which naturally aligns the blade with your arm, and is much more comfortable. The angle here pulls the blade into your fingers better, and in general the knife is a little lighter, so this knife really struggles. It chops well, but it really struggles to cut anything lightweight. And And that's simply because its weight means it's very difficult to accelerate, and after you've accelerated it to cut through whatever tiny little twig you're trying to cut, brush, for example, you have to then decelerate it back down. It's sort of the opposite of a machete. This, being only 1/4 of an inch thick as opposed to 1/3 of an inch thick, is easier to accelerate and decelerate, and is a little bit shorter as well. So this knife, I wish it were available in Infi. If it were, I would buy it. I know you could probably find a basic that met this specs. Also, the handle being resprene means the tang is thinner, which cuts weight, and the resprene itself is lighter than the G10, which also cuts weight, and all that shifts this knife's sweet spot nice and far up forward, which makes it a fun, convenient, easy chopper. So all in all, would I recommend you buy this Battle Mistress? The answer is sort of maybe. If you're really chopping things, if being a chopper is what you want to buy the knife for, this knife will work for that. It does function for that. That said, its cost, and I don't mean to rag too much on Busse cost, because Busses are backed by an incredible warranty and customer service in a rare way for brands, and so there is a lot of value in that. That said, Busse's sister brand offers this knife, which I find to be more comfortable, lower cost, and its only real disadvantage is that it's a steel that's allegedly has slightly less toughness and is prone to corrosion. So, where do I stand on that? I think while I do like this, and in fact, this knife, I ordered 2 of them at the time, one for myself, one for a very dear friend. While the sister knife to this actually severed the head of a pig in a single blow, I still, when I need a tool, particularly if I'm going out and about, reach for this because it weighs less, it's more diverse in its ability to cut. That is to say, it can be better accelerated and decelerated to cut through lighter material as well as be used for chopping. It's more comfortable, and on the whole, I just like using it better. The grip fits my hand better. So, I guess you'd say, if you know what you want, and this is what you want, I don't have anything against people buying this. I don't want to take anything away from this, but my personal preference is for this other Bussekin, simply because I like using it more. If they were the same price, I would still take this one. That said, if a basic were available like this, so coated, I like the coating for corrosion resistance, so coated, roughly this size, this thickness, all that I would take above either of these, because now you have corrosion resistance and the advantages in toughness of Infi over this. So that's I guess where I stand on all this. There's no regret in buying this or anything like that. I still take this out. I still very much enjoy using it. For my sort of general purpose, I need to grab a belt knife to go out and do a variety of different things, which is to say outdoor tasks, brush clearing, make 10 sticks, do this, do that, whatever. You're going to go outside and you're going to have your outdoors system for hiking, something like that, shooting sports. You need to grab your big knife to pair against your pocket knife or a small sheath knife or something like that. This is the one that I usually grab when I do that. And, again, the corrosion, it's annoying. This isn't corrosion proof, though, by any stretch, although, as you can see, it's weathered it better. But I just find myself reaching for this knife more. And, some people are going to be really offended by that because, it's hard to say something because this is supposed to be the brand that's in the shadow of Busse and this and that. But just sort of from this general use perspective, I really honestly, and I don't want to draw the ire of Busse aficionados, but just from a general use perspective, I really honestly find myself reaching for this knife more often, and I do like it better. So that's it for my review. I hope this finally shed light on this knife. Somebody not that long ago was asking me, they were watching my Battle Mistress overview and saying, where the hell's your review? You posted it so long ago, etc., etc. Sorry, it's been long delayed. A lot has happened, a lot has changed, and I wanted to keep testing this knife because I wanted to make sure that what I said positive about it was truthful and accurate, and what I said negative about it was also truthful and complete and accurate. I'm still looking at different solutions to improve grip on this. I think that a paracord little wrist loop would probably help, something like that. But at the end of the day, it's more fatiguing, and that other problem, you grip tight, which you have to do in order to hold on to this grip. You grip tight, and it naturally rotates the blade out of line with my arm for cutting. So I impact, instead of vertical like this, I impact slightly off like that and get glances, which can be a bit dangerous in certain cases. So again, that's a grip fit thing, and it just is what it is. Thanks for watching, guys. I do want to say both great knives. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you at the next video.